goals, dreams and goals, dreams and goals. Get results.
Yes, and he's like, it kind of goes together, right? Like cowboys, it's like cowboys and country music, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how does it go? All right, we're going? So we're live, just to get me talking Post Malone. Yeah, I just love it, dude. This is crazy. We'll have to start this one off with Post It. It is, because I will stream it every day. I'll just leave it on and repeat it, so it will. I wonder if it, like, so there's, so Swifties, obviously, there's Taylor Swift. Is there Posties? Is that like the groupies for Posties?
Maybe. Let me ask you a question, though. You heard the clip that he released on TikTok before the song came out?
With Morgan Wallen?
The actual clip on TikTok they teased?
Yeah.
Did you think that clip sounded better than the actual song when it came out? Do you think that they tuned the song a little bit too much?
I think I don't think too much, but I think it was just the clip was so short. And yeah, it was tuned that it made it just, it was like that teaser.
Yeah.
I think it was almost, because I thought I was telling people, I was like, they're doing it perfect.
Yeah.
Because they're getting people hooked on it because they're only releasing a little bit.
Yep.
And they're doing it again, but I know the Blake Shelton one just came out. And I'm like, this is another banger.
Yeah.
Probably, right? But it worked.
Fed off his energy.
Yeah.
Like his energy in that video.
Yes.
How he's got his head down and he's just like vibing.
Jamming, yeah.
I'm doing the same thing, right?
Yes.
And I think that's why that got so hyped up.
Yeah, it was. But then the Blake Shelton one, he was doing the same thing, and I was like, I want to party. It's like, I want to jam this too.
Yeah.
I was loving it, and I think he's doing great. I heard him sing that slow song, because then I was like, well, maybe he can't sing any slow songs. He did one at the Country Awards.
Yeah,
it was amazing. I was like, wow, man, he's just a talented dude.
Yeah.
And I just love that he's so humble and he's just having fun. And I think that's part of it. It's like you said, the vibe is just, dude.
Everyone can relate to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like so wild. I guess it's so wild because he's the tatted up guy with face tats singing, dominating country music.
Yep.
And the fact that he came into country music and his first hit song was with Morgan Wallen, who's obviously probably right now the face of country music, sold out shows, and creates this banger with Morgan Wallen. And to me, I never would have thought Post Malone would have been better in a song than Morgan Wallen, and I felt like he crushed it, and now he's doing another one. I'm like, man, what is he doing? So, well, here we are. Now we're talking Post Malone, and now we're talking Airbnbs as well. We're going to talk more Airbnbs because you're actually fixing to move to my hometown, Dallas, but you stayed in Miami. You're from Canada.
Yep. Moved all over the place.
Moved all over. Are you born and raised in Canada?
Yeah.
Okay, born and raised. How long were you there?
Up until 7 months ago.
Oh, really? So recently?
33 years.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
What made you get out of Canada?
Just getting tired of the weather, to be honest. That was the main thing. Everyone wants to make it about so much more, but realistically, just the weather. Just tired of 6 months of cold and doom and gloom, and just wanted to change up the scenery. There's a lot more offerings here in the U.S. Business-wise and stuff. It's a lot easier to scale and grow. So that was another thing I felt I got very limited, I should say, capped in Canada. I'm in multifamily investing. Pretty much tapped out with like mortgages and buying real estate in Canada. Mm-hmm. So the next thing, I turned to Airbnb arbitrage here in the US, and that's going great and going to continue to grow here. So
why did you, I'm a little disappointed. Actually, I love Florida, so number 2, but you chose Florida over Texas, and that hurts my soul. But why did that happen?
I love Texas. I lived in Austin for 5 months, spent some time in Dallas and San Antonio as well. Mm-hmm. 3 great cities. We were like 99 set on moving there. Like I told you, we had a lease signed in the Victor in Dallas. We were super pumped. I'm like, I'm going to get season tickets for the Mavs and the Stars. And I'm like setting up appointments and all this.
And you crushed our dreams.
Yeah. You know what? It was only because we had some friends from Canada move to Miami. Yeah. And we were like, we know a few people already.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Let's try and see if we like Florida, because I've experienced Texas already. And then let's compare the two and see where we want to settle.
How long you been here? 3 months?
7 months.
Oh, you've been here in Florida 7 months now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were in Texas, 3 or 4? Or 5? You said 5, Austin?
About 7 or 8, actually, 2023, yeah. Between Austin, Dallas, and San Antonio.
So you've been about 7 months of each. Which one do you like more?
They're both.
No.
I like Miami for the cars.
For the cars? Okay.
Cars. I'm super into cars, and Miami has the best car scene.
Yeah. There's a lot in Dallas. If you go,
there is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when I was down there, I was setting up Airbnbs and didn't have my cars and wasn't networking and going to the events, so I didn't get to experience it. Austin's got nothing.
Yeah, keep Austin weird.
Yeah.
When you, I was born and raised in Austin. It's a shithole, and if you're from Austin, I don't care. It's a shithole. I don't like it. Whatever you want to call it, it's a shithole. I'm not a fan of Austin. I actually love San Antonio's family vibes, low key.
Riverwalk's super nice.
Food is phenomenal. Yep. Houston, I'm a little hood, so I love Houston. I like H-Town.
I haven't been to Houston.
Dude, I love Houston a lot. But Dallas is home. Dallas will probably always be home. We do want to get a house out here eventually.
Yeah.
We're going to open out here, but Dallas is home. But yeah, Austin's a shithole. I'll never go back. I go around it, actually. Yeah. They just look brand. I say that, and I'm half joking. It's just when I lived there, it was the most beautiful city, and I never thought I'd leave, and they just let it go.
I'm from Toronto, and I thought we had a homeless problem in Toronto until I got to Austin, and I'm like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Someone told me that they shipped people from another state or city into Austin.
Yeah, no, they did. It's politics, and it's just people have egos, and
crazy.
It's sad because it was such a beautiful city, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And there was really no place like Austin, really, and then and I hope they clean it up.
Yeah.
I've heard they've been trying, but
I've been told you can't even go to like 6th Street anymore. Like the one side of 6th Street is like you're gonna get shot or stabbed.
Yeah, it started like Dirty Six was always a little sketch, but it obviously way worse now.
Yeah.
Terrible. I love Dallas. I guess too.
People them.
When you have kids, man, you grow up, right?
Yeah.
And you probably want to be more in the suburbs, but
Prosper's beautiful, Frisco.
That's where we live. We live in Frisco. Did you get a chance to visit the Star?
Okay, so no, didn't get to visit the Star, but when we were deciding on if we wanted to live in Dallas, we actually were looking at a neighborhood called Winsong Ranch.
Yeah, that's where my buddy lives. A guy that works for me lives there.
We were like, we saw this crystal clear lagoon thing. It was like the first of its kind. We're like Winsong Ranch, or downtown Dallas, and we were like debating.
And so then it's like,
and then somehow we ended up
Prosper, downtown Dallas, Miami. It is, yeah. So what? Okay, so you were doing multifamily and real estate in Canada? Yeah. Are you still doing it there?
I still own multifamily there. I was flipping homes as well, but I just actually sold my last flip 3 or 4 weeks ago. No more flipping. Doing straight Airbnb arbitrage here in the U.S. for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So how did you first get into that in Canada? And I know you said you were capped out. How did you get capped out? Obviously not trying to go down a political rabbit hole, but how did you get started in Canada? And then what were some of the things that were stopping you, like as far as that, where you had to make that move?
Basically, the amount of capital it was taking to buy properties. Everything in Canada you'd be paying $250 or $250K a door, right? So I was buying like triplexes, fourplexes. You need $1 million, you need a couple $100,000 down, and with interest rates right now, we weren't cash flowing.
Yeah.
Right. So I also couldn't get any more mortgages with lenders, so I was going like private, hard money routes.
Yeah.
And obviously that makes it more expensive. So discovered Airbnb arbitrage, and this business model where you could rent properties instead of purchasing, and Airbnb, and make more cash flow, right? Versus buying and having a mortgage and having all these costs and expenses. And the main reason why I started in the U.S. was because to get my visa. So they do an investor visa. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's called an E2 visa.
Yeah.
So the U.S. has a bunch of treaties with different countries around the world. Canada being one of them. They have this E2 visa program. You can basically buy an existing business or start your own business. And the threshold is about $100,000 you need to spend.
Yeah.
And then they'll give you an E2 visa. You can move here with your spouse and your kids. They can go to public school. You can continue growing the business. That's the whole point behind the program. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we were like looking for a business to get involved in, and since I've already been in real estate for 15 years, Airbnb arbitrage, I saw the opportunity. I could do the visa, and that's why we're here now.
So what's Airbnb arbitrage? Is a company somebody owns, and you can like how does that work?
Yeah, so Airbnb arbitrage is essentially just doing Airbnb but arbitraging other people's properties.
Okay, so you're actually renting someone's property. So
yes.
if do you like go rent the home on a month-to-month basis?
Pretty much, yeah. The
Really?
same way like a normal tenant would rent
Yeah.
a property. I pitch the landlord. They're okay with me operating short-term rental. Sign a regular lease. They give me permission to sublet the property, and that's it. I furnish it and put it on Airbnb.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome. So how many do you have? Well, first of all, how long have you been doing that? I guess since you've been here, right?
Yep. So I've been doing it for a year and a half. I started in Texas in January of 2023. That was my first property. I'm up to 56 properties now, and I have another 10 to 15 in my pipeline for the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow. So like, and you're not responsible for really anything.
All the big costs.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
So how did you discover that?
Just through social media, just seeing other people doing it, you know, following along some of the big Airbnb guys. I hired a mentor in September of 2022.
Okay.
A big Airbnb guy had over 100 luxury properties. So he'd have properties like this, you know, where
Really?
rents
Yeah.
are like 20, 30, 40, 50K a month. And he would Airbnb those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess if it doesn't get Airbnb, then you're stuck for the rent, right?
Yeah, those are a little crazy for me. I don't do anything like high end like that. I'm more focused on like economy style units.
Yeah.
You know, stuff that's like $1,000 to $1,500 a month rent. They're very easy to book out. You know, they make $500 to $1,000 a month net profit. Cost me $5,000 to furnish. They're very easy and simple deals, and they cash flow like crazy.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you own any properties here, or are you all?
I don't own anything here yet. No.
Really?
No, it's a little bit tough as a Canadian coming to the U.S. Like I'm new. I just got a
Yeah.
social security number. I have no credit.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like starting all over
Yeah,
again.
really.
Like I have, you know, this life in Canada that I built up. I have, you know, great credit score, great relationships with banks and stuff like that. And I come here and it's like
You got nothing.
starting all over again.
Wow, that's wild. Like you don't think about those things. Like when you come
Yeah.
over for, you know, people, you immigrate from another country. I mean,
Yep.
right? Like, and then like you don't think that it's I'm just gonna show up business as usual. It's completely different life. What's been the biggest adjustment? Obviously, probably besides that, that's probably different. Like Social Security card, credit. You know, you think of those things as tough, but like, what's been the biggest change from you going to from Canada to our best state ever, Texas, and then Florida?
The biggest, it hasn't really been that hard of an adjustment, believe it or not. The hardest thing is for me was leaving my friends and family.
Yeah.
For the most part, like I've already built up a bit of a life in Canada. You know, most of my investments and the way I make my money is passive.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been difficult to like make the change like business wise.
Yeah.
And there's been more opportunity, and I'm networking a lot more here. A lot more doors are opening for me
That's
here
awesome.
than they were in
Yeah.
Canada. But yeah, just the heart was leaving friends and family behind and realizing I wanted something different for my life and, you know, just going for it.
What made you want something different, and like what is that? I mean, it sounds like you had a good life, right? Said you had the cars, you had it. What made you want, like, what was that? Did something happen, or was like the decision, and then what was it that you want, or what is it that you want?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of things. I think it was the fact that like I felt like I couldn't grow anymore in Canada. I want so much more in life, and I felt capped. We had, you know, the weather was probably 50%
Yeah,
of
weather
that decision,
sucks, dude.
right?
Cold.
I love, like I said, I'm into cars, so I was only able to drive my car 6 months of the year in Canada. So all these decisions kind of, you know, pushed us like, you know, we need to go somewhere warm. And basically the options were, you know, Arizona, Texas, or Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. What you said cars? How many cars do you have?
I have 6 right now.
6.
Yeah.
What kind?
I have 3 Lamborghinis. I have an Aventador, an STO, and a Urus.
Okay.
I have a Ferrari F8, Rolls-Royce Ghost, and a G-Wagon.
Jesus, we're in the wrong business. Like, we're in the wrong business. I'm going Entourage Airbnb tomorrow. What's your favorite?
Arbitrage.
This is arbitrage. What did I say? Entourage? It's the municipal. I got the Mark Wahlberg on. Saying it was Entourage.
That's my favorite show of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
Fun fact: I've never seen it.
Oh, it's such a great show. You
I
gotta
know.
watch it.
I have a weird thing about me. I have OCD. Like like it's bad.
Yeah.
And if I watch something and I like it, I won't stop until it's over. And I have
8 seasons of that.
I'm careful. I've only watched like 2 series ever, And it was actually during the time I actually had a job. We were taking over a company. So they hired me to take over this company, and they got pushed back 6 months.
Yeah.
And so they were paying me to just work remotely, right? And so I got to watch 2 shows. But I've never.
What shows were they?
I'm embarrassed to say one of them, but it's so phenomenal.
Say it.
The first one was Dexter, which is great.
Great show.
That was like One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
One Tree Hill. Don't laugh. I said don't laugh. One Tree Hill. Like, shut up, dude. One Tree Hill to me is the greatest show ever made. Like, I saw.
Didn't they just have a reunion?
Dude, see, here you go. Me and my wife want to go to the reunion, and they do this little thing in North Carolina. I sometimes I'm like, man, I wonder what One Tree Hill and the gang are up to. Dude, I love that show, bro. It's so great. Like, so my wife put it on. She's like, you ever seen it? I was like, what is this crap?
Yeah.
And so my old roommate back in the day would watch it. And I'm like, bro, you're a loser. Like, no one watch it. He's like, it's One Tree Hill. And they would do little watch parties. I was like, what is wrong with y'all? Hey, man. And then I saw it. Obviously, this was only like 6 years ago because my son was just born. He's 7, so this is like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And my wife just like puts on the first episode, and I start watching it.
That's good.
We watched it we finished every season in like basically a week or 2 because didn't stop, and I was hooked. And so then, but I know that if I watch something, I won't stop. And so I don't watch like any shows. Like I've never seen Star Wars, I've never seen Lord of the Rings, I've never seen like what's the other ones? Harry Potter. Like even movies like that, I don't watch because I
watch the whole series.
I watch everything,
Yep.
so I have to be careful. But yeah, I do want to One Tree Hill. That's freaking awesome.
I think there's a lot of men out there that are we've all seen it.
Yeah.
We just don't want to admit it.
Yeah, and I did, and I'm like, I watched it like in one setting. So yeah, there's that. But what's your favorite car?
It's got to be the SVJ. I just got it. It's been a dream of mine for years. It kind of fell into my lap. I wasn't planning on getting it. Yeah, a good deal came by, and I'm like, you know what? Now's the time to jump on this, and yeah, it's something special. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So why cars? What?
I think my dad was always into cars growing up. He always had Corvettes, motorcycles. Yeah. So I inherited that from him, and cars they're enjoyable, and they're the best thing you can do for networking, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, meeting other car enthusiasts. So much of my business and meeting people that, where doors have opened is from the supercar community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's weird, like, so I'm in the, like, sports cards. Like, we love, so like, it was funny, like, last night or yesterday, we had a little bit of time, so we went to a card shop, and we bought some boxes, opened them up, hit, like, a big card. But like I love sports cards, but it's the same thing. Like when you meet someone that's a sports card collector, right? It's like, oh, what do you got? You start, talking shop over that. I could see with the cars. I've never been a car guy, but back to Entourage, I got to watch this because I do have a '67 Lincoln Continental, so it's the only car I own. Everything else is work. I'm very like low key in that aspect of it. But I've had people tell me, they're like, man, you meet so many people like in car clubs, like the car clubs or whatever, that you can do. But it's funny how. That to me is why it's so important to post who you are, because you attract an audience of people that like what you like. So sports cards, like it creates conversation. And so when you're out and about, it creates conversation.
Yep.
But yeah, I have it is funny that you say that now. I have a '67 Lincoln Continental on airbags. And
car.
Yeah, every time someone sees it, they're like, it doesn't matter who they are. Yep. It's like, oh, I remember that from this.
Conversation starter. That's all you need.
Yeah, it's a conversation starter. So what's the goal? You said how many Airbnbs you have now? You said
I'm at 56.
56.
Live,
Yeah.
And then got another 10 to 15 in the pipeline.
10 to 15 in the pipeline. What's the ultimate goal here? Is it to stay in that market? Do you have other plans as well?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm just growing that. Originally, I didn't want to expand to those numbers. I was my goal was 50 for the longest time, but 50, came and went, and I think I really want to hit that 100. I think 100 is that's like a boss number in that space, like to have 100 short-term rentals.
And then you're gonna go 150. And then...
Yeah, I know, because that's what my mentors did. They had 100, 200. One of my mentors has like 500 now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that you're gonna stay pretty much in that space, unless obviously something opens up.
Yeah, I do want to get into Section 8. I was just creating cash flow first with Airbnb, and then I plan to buy like long-term Section 8 rentals. Yeah.
Why Section 8?
I just want to start taking some of that cash flow and buying
assets. Yeah, keeping the assets.
Yep.
What do you like for anyone wanting to get into space? Like, let's say the real estate space, whether it's buying. So obviously, buying's, you got to have something, right? But for, let's say somebody wants to get in the Airbnb space, how should they get into it?
Yeah, it's not overly hard to get into. You need $5,000-$10,000 worth of capital. Basically, I'm calling landlords and learning how to pitch the business, explaining the pros to a landlord why they should let you rent their property. Once you get acquisition is the hardest part of the Airbnb arbitrage game.
Really?
Once you get that yes, like furnishing the apartment or the house and setting up the Airbnb and running the business is not overly difficult. And it can be mostly passive.
Yeah, because you're not having to do much, because if something goes wrong, it's typically on them.
Yep, and you just have to create the systems and the structure in your business. Like I have 6 virtual assistants now and a manager that lives in Austin.
Oh,
so
really?
I have someone on the ground, and then I have virtual assistants in the Philippines that manage the whole day-to-day. They do my accounting, they talk to the guests, they talk to my cleaners, they file damage claims. Anything about the business, they do for me.
Well, that's great, but it's your furniture, so you're not really at risk with the landlord. Now, obviously, I guess if they smash a wall or something.
Airbnb has a great insurance coverage, so anytime anything happens, they break something, put a hole in the wall, I get my handyman to fix it, replace the furniture, and then I invoice Airbnb.
Yeah, the only time you would really be contacting the landlord is if like AC went out, hot water, like something crazy.
Those big issues, We fix anything like $150 or less.
So that's awesome. Yeah. So how you when you got back, you said you got with a mentor first that got you in this space, right? How impactful was getting a mentor for you, and do you still use them? Do you still use your mentor?
Yeah, so I've had mentors in every industry I've ever been in, right? I got my real estate license at 19, and the first thing I did was join a team, with a real estate coach that taught me how to be in real estate. And then when I started flipping homes, I didn't hire a coach for flipping, but I was partnering up with another guy who had been doing it for 20 years, right?
That's
so
awesome.
I've always had a mentor. Same with Airbnb. Like even being in real estate for 15 years, I still went out and hired a coach because I believe that the money that I'm paying that coach, I'm going to learn the business, in a short time frame. I'm going to be able to implement everything quicker, and I'm going to save money on mistakes.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes you have to know the plate's hot yourself, right, to not touch it.
Yep.
But I think what's great for mentors is one. And I would ask you what you look for in mentors, I think, in this space, because I'm completely new to this space. I'm learning this, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. But for me, I want a mentor that's done what I've done, right, or is doing what I want to do. And for me, I don't think that mentors actually teach me a lot that I don't know. But I think what a mentor does is give you the reassurance, not that you always need, but the confidence and the ability to go do it, right? Like having a mentor tell me, look, this is what you're doing is working. It's gonna work. I think a lot of times it gives you confidence, especially early in the game, right? I think everything out there is pretty much out there. If you want to learn how to do Airbnb, you go to YouTube. If you want to learn how to sell roofs, you go to YouTube. You can learn how to do marketing. You can learn you can learn on Google and YouTube, like greatest teachers of them all. But it's different when somebody that's done what you've done says like, hey, Dustin, you're on the right path in leadership. You're on the right path in business. Keep doing this, man. Just watch out for these potholes. And even when you do it, you say the plate's hot and you touch it, you go, oh shit, they were right. The plate's hot, right? So you're kind of aware of that happening next time. Because a lot of times you make mistakes. You don't even realize they're mistakes until it's too late, right? So if that's what I look for in a mentor. I always want to see somebody that's doing what I want to do or has done what I want to do. What do you look for in mentors, and how have they, I know you were just talking a little bit about like any specific things they've helped you with where you're like, man, this instance came up and this, like, my mentor helped me through this?
Yeah, you literally stole my answer.
Yeah, right. All right. See, Texas, baby.
The same thing for me for a mentor is just, like you said, I tell people all the time, you can go on YouTube, you can find the information out there for all these businesses for free.
Yeah.
Right? It's putting it in the right order, and sometimes, not sometimes, having a mentor will, for one, hold you accountable. And they're going to be there to assist you along the way, because obviously having someone that you can turn to and ask a question, that you need answered right then and there. Sometimes you can't go to YouTube to get that specific answer, right? And your mentor has already been through the process. They already know the answers to all the questions you're going to ask, right?
Yeah. And two, like, I think that's the difference with a mentor and a mastermind. You know, the masterminds, you go one time, you get answers, you feel really good, you get rah, 72 hours and it wears off. But you can't reach out to that mastermind again, right? Like, I mean, you probably can, but the odds of getting an answer are, they're more difficult. That's why I actually, like, we're speaking of Patrick Bet David earlier. He has a Connect app, and the Connect app's amazing, man, because you get on there, most people respond within 24 hours.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's a game changer, man. For as a user and as trying to help people. What was funny was actually kind of this was a long time ago. I saw it pop up, and we were talking about it, and I got on there not thinking it was a big deal. Dude, there was like nobody on there. I remember literally at one point there was probably only like 20 people, 30 people when I was on there. There wasn't very many, and it was really just his team. And selfishly, I just was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is about, right? And I'll tell you, like, I think the best way that you can learn something is to teach something. And I've learned more about myself being able to, when people ask me a question, it does a few things. One, it opens up my eyes to other people, the way they see it through their lens. The second thing is it reminds me of situations that I've been through. And, the third thing is there's situations that come up that they're going through that maybe I will come up, and me answering in a way, maybe because I haven't been through it, but I've been through it something similar. And you can just connect, right? For, call it $10. I would say the average question on there is probably $20 to $30 to text somebody. You can do video call, but man, the access to be able to say for $100, $200 to text someone like Patrick Bet David is priceless.
For sure.
If you want to find marketing, if you want to connect with realtors, I've actually lined up like 10 guests off of there, like texting, hey man, I see what you're killing the game. No question. I would, really, but I would love if you get the time to come on the podcast. I think in your space, it could be great because there's a lot of business owners, real estate agents, right? People in here, entrepreneurs, a lot of people are from Florida, but it is. And then I think you could do really well in there as a, mentor coach. I don't know if you do that, if you do mentorship.
I do, yeah.
You
just started doing it about 5 months ago.
Oh, really? So doing mentorship is a great way to not only, expand your brand, but expand your reach for people. It's been a lot of fun for me. I think it's been and I've gotten to partner with some great people on there, met a lot of people. Yeah. It's cool.
So I never heard of it before your page.
Really?
And then I was watching some of your videos. So are you the number one guy on there now?
Outside of Patrick's team. So it still hurts me because I'm super competitive, but it's I think it's Tom, Vinny, Patrick, Adam, and then me. So
can you explain what it is? Like the app, is it you go on there as an educator and then people will pay you whatever you're charging your fee to ask you questions, like a video or text answer?
So you remember Cameo?
Yes.
Right. So Cameo was shot out, right?
Yep.
So you go on there and you text a celebrity and hey, it's Dustin's birthday, wish him happy birthday, right? Which was a great idea. And it was fun, but it was very this is Cameo, but juiced out of their mind on steroids. You can go on there. The great part is there's two parts. One, you're a user. So let's just say, Dustin, I'm a business guy and I'm up and coming roofer and I want to seek advice on business marketing. I can go to the category roofing. I can go to marketing, business, accounting, whatever it is, and say, hey, I'm struggling with this accounting. What are some things I have to look for, whatever. And an expert can reply. So you get that pretty simple as a user. You can do a text question where you just text them and they'll reply with a voiced text or a text. You can actually do a video response with a little bit more where I can say, I request a video response, and then they'll basically pre-record it and send it to you. Or you can do a one-on-one call where you schedule like a Zoom call, right? It's a little bit more. Now, the expert, you get your fields, and then people go ask you the questions, and you respond.
But you can answer users' questions. You do that for free to build your
credibility? No, you charge. It's like, so I do the lowest is $10.
So if I'm a user on there and I go on there and I want to ask a roofing question.
To me, yeah.
But I can't, so you have to ask it direct to an educator? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
You pick, that's what I like about it is you just don't have, because like if you go on to what's like Reddit, right, and you post a question, you get 40 hate comments, you probably have some dude who's just giving you the wrong answer just to be a jerk off, and then you might get one or two legit. you're seeking out who you want to talk to.
Okay.
So if you seek out and see them, you're like, I want to ask these 3 people questions and say it's $10 a person, which I love is because let's say for me, you're on Monect and I go, I want to get into Airbnb space.
Yep.
I message you directly. I'm not going to message Dustin the roofer, bro. Right. And so that's what makes it fun is that you seek out who you want and you text them and there's a 95% response rate. Most of the people respond less than a day. So you're getting your information quick versus let's say you go to a mastermind. You might not be able to see that guy, or if you're doing one of these coaching clinics, you get access to him once a month.
That's it.
Mentor, right, works. Yep. This, I would say this is like having a virtual mentor that you can text, but you have 1,000 of them from all different fields. So if it's an accounting question, accounting, let's say it's real estate, right? So there's
awesome.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. I think it'd be something huge beneficial for you.
I think so too, because I was looking into it and I was waiting till today to talk to you about it just to get a little bit more of an idea of how it worked. But I think it would be great for me too. Yeah. And I'm not sure if there's many Airbnb I'm sure there's probably a lot of real estate experts, but maybe not a lot of Airbnb arbitrage experts.
I don't think there's any, because that's the first time I heard it. I don't think there's any, and I think you could you could be a user because you could text people for $10-$20 to connect with them. If you want to meet somebody that you think would be influential, and then you could be an expert on there where people could ask you questions, and you start to build your mentorship. Because people ask you questions for call it $10-$20 or whatever your is. $50, and then you could say, hey, if you're interested in more and more, I have this mentorship program, right?
You can do that?
Yeah, you can, because if you have a coaching program, there's people on there that are coaches that use the platform to build theirs as well, right?
Yeah, that's good to know, because I wasn't sure how they would, a lot of platforms, sometimes may not let you take the users off to, a private mentorship because they want the money funneling.
They do, and I think for me, when people, I tell, look, if it's a personal question, like, I don't mind people asking me on Instagram, but if it's a business, go on there. And the reason I say that is, you know how it is. Everybody wants advice, but usually the people that for free, they're not serious.
For sure.
And so it's $10 on there, right? And there's been great relationships that have formed from it that we've become friends now. And so as long as you're, I think you're doing it the right way, it's great. And that's what it's there for. It's a connecting app, and it's been phenomenal. I've met some incredible people. I've even hired people off there.
Yeah.
That's what's wild. Like, have roofers ask me questions.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome. I'm definitely going to give it a go.
Yeah, that's great. So what car did you bring today?
I have the Ferrari here today.
Oh, so we're going to have to see it before we go. I was like, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. You've had to start over twice. I know we got a few more minutes, right? What's starting over, I think, is completely different, right? I remember starting over, and it was just kind of like, starting is the hardest thing to do. That's the most difficult. Starting over, it's way more intense because you've climbed some type of mountain. Doesn't mean you're at the top, but you've created success. What for you too, and I know you touched a little bit on it earlier, what has been, besides the family and friends, just a business aspect, right? I know starting over, living, but business-wise, what's been the hardest absolute thing that you've struggled with to get here? I mean, to get started here.
Just the fact that I'm basically a nobody here.
A nobody?
So
the social,
you know what?
credit.
I have a little bit of capital, behind me, which makes everything a little bit easier, versus someone that has limited funds to deal with.
Yep.
But essentially, I was in Canada, was able to lease properties in the U.S. as a Canadian citizen with no social security number here, no credit score, no backing, and I was able to build to 50 plus units in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So you're telling me someone from here in the US with a credit score, if I can do it from Canada with none of this backing, other than the capital, but they need the capital too.
Yeah.
You need it regardless to build this business, right? So if I'm able to do that, I think anybody here in the US that's already here has a head start.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, because it doesn't matter what's your social. Right? It's tricky. I don't have one. That's the funny thing.
Unless you got shit credit, then you're.
Yeah, well then.
It is what it is. You got to work around that, but you can work around any of that. There's lots of buildings that haven't even asked me for that.
Really?
Yeah. You'd be surprised if I go to a building that has 10 vacant units, right, and they're just sitting there empty, and I say I want to take 5 of them. Do you think they're gonna ask me too many questions?
No.
They just want to get them leased.
Yeah, they're hurting.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's lots of that everywhere. People think there's a housing crisis, but there's lots of vacancy.
Yeah, you just got to go find it.
Yeah.
What do you? And we end on this, but what do you think for most people? Like, that's a great story. I love too. Like, you didn't go through that struggle, right? You know, I love hearing those stories because I had recently someone telling me, like, Dustin, I had a rough upbringing, right? Man, I didn't have that struggle. I didn't have that. Like, I didn't go through that trauma. I'm like, good for you, man. You know, we've almost gotten to a society where I can't stand it. There's people here that like, yeah, I was to prison. That's what makes me successful. Like, dude, shut up. Like, I'm not proud of I went through some of this stuff. It's who I am, though. But I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud that I've been to jail before. I'm not proud that, you know, I used to do things. I'm not proud of that stuff. It's just part of who I am. If I could rewrite my history and not be from the trailer park, if I could have a relationship with my mom, if I could know who my dad is, yes, I would love that. Yeah. I would love to have that story, but that's not my story. But I feel like we've fallen in love with this. We almost have to have this huge traumatic, and I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, I know, it bothers me.
So many of these mentors, they're like, oh, I started off with $2,000 or $4,000. I was living in my parents' basement. It's like, yeah, you were fucking 21.
Yeah, exactly. You were in high school.
And you lived in your parents' basement. Yeah. That's not a come-up story.
Yeah.
That's just life.
Yeah, that's everybody.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Tired of it. It's the same story all the time, and I bitch to everyone about it.
Yeah, it's the newest one. I feel like it's prison. Well, it's like, okay, because you committed a crime, dumbass. Like, you don't get points because you got caught doing something illegal and went to prison, and now you're bragging about it. Like, hey, man, that's cool that you overcame your past, because it is. Like, I get respect, dude.
Definitely.
You became a different person, but I'm like, you're sounding like you deserve to go back to prison because some of this stuff is kind of sketchy, right? I'm just saying, man, but it's like, I was talking to him and I go, dude, you should be thankful for that.
Yeah.
That should be your motivation. Your motivation should be, you don't have to overcome that trauma. You're starting with a clean slate. You are starting with a head start. Like, maybe you're not at 20 because your parents weren't rich, but maybe you're starting at 0. I started at -20. So I feel like we've gotten to this crap of you got to have the story. But for you, I don't know before that, but you were doing really well in Canada. You came here and started having more success, right? Which is great. There was no big, I lost it all and had to reboot, which I think is amazing. Like, for anyone out there that's looking to start, what's like the best advice you can give them, no matter what their story is?
Just start.
There we go.
Fuck. Yeah. I see it every day. I get hundreds of DMs, man. People messaging me for 5-6 months about the same thing over and over again, like afraid to start.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing for me. When I see something and I want to do it, I just go do it. I don't overthink it. I don't overanalyze the numbers. I don't talk myself out of everything. I take the risk. It's a mitigated, calculated risk.
Yeah.
But you still have to take it, or you're just going to live, a normal average life, which I'm not saying is bad. But if you want something more, then you've got to take the risk to get it.
Yes, you got to risk it for the biscuit. So many people want all the reward, dude. They just don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
So how can people find you out there before you go? So you got, obviously, for your coaching and for just you on social, how can they find you?
Yep.
Soon to be Manect as well.
Yeah, on Manect for sure soon. And for now, you can find me on Instagram at Agent Wright, last name WRIGHT.
Right. Wright is right.
Yep.
Yes.
So get the Wright B&B Academy.
Yeah. That's the coach. That's awesome. So if they want to get to mentorship, if they have questions, hit you up on there right now.
Hit me up on Instagram. Yeah, I got a sales team that can have a call with them, set up, see if it's right for them, and got a few different options that they can choose from based on if they want a hands-off approach or a more hands-on approach.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me. This was awesome.
This is awesome, man. We'll have to catch up. We'll change it, but I appreciate it, my man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.